Hello there, beautiful souls and beautiful humans. Welcome to a very exciting masterclass for me. I have spent a long time preparing it, and I actually know that it's going to be one of those that we're just going to fly with. So I'm excited for what you're all going to receive from this. Those of you who are new to me, I am RozyGlow Hannes. I'm the founder of the Star Peace movement, and the Manifesting Star Peace Utopia Facebook group is our sort of sacred space, if you like, in the social arena where, we know there's a lot of changes that need to take place. So, we're purposefully there. But essentially, I really want to invite everybody who watches this either live or with the replay to know that this is a really different take on what's going on in the world today, and actually what is essential to us making this shift from the old world to the new one. And I'm very excited to offer it, and I'm offering it on the basis that I feel everyone is going to benefit, whether you are someone who's a millionaire, multimillionaire, billionaire, or you're someone who would love to have that kind of money, but it just feels like it's a million miles away. There are those of us who are here who have more of a personal thing to work through initially that is part of the global vision. And there are others who are already in a position where they have resources to put towards something amazing. And it's about how we can actually get to the very root of the systemic corruption that's going on in this world, and actually to just evolve beyond our wildest dreams in a way that we create a whole new paradigm. So thanks for being with me. We're going to be about an hour, and then I'll take some Q&A. And it is my intention to really get you to be very, very clear about what is already something that you're practicing in your life, you're already participating in. You can kind of tick off the list and say, yeah, these are things that are already there. And then other elements that are like, wow, I've never even thought about that before. And I know from years of actually having been, a yoga teacher that specialized in fertility and pregnancy and babies and birth, and then moving into coaching and having spent near on 9 years now, multidimensional coaching, that some of the things I'm going to share today are not common knowledge. Okay, they're not something that is currently popular or understood very deeply, and yet for us to actually have the kind of changes that we want in this world, it's really important we recognize how important they are. So if you haven't got a notebook and pen, please grab one because you'll want it. I will do my best to be a slow enough channel, not to bore you, but actually just to be able to assimilate what I'm saying. But I think you're probably going to really want to catch the replay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions as well, and I invite you please to use the text box. If you feel a bit uncomfortable about sharing publicly, you can just private message me in the text box and I won't say your name. And also, please remember, if you do want access to the replay, make sure you have signed up to RozyGlow.com, RozyGlow.com, because that way we will be able to send you the replay. Now, I'm just basically getting the Star Peace group up so I can see if we have any questions coming through there as well. And yeah, I'm intending that you have a phenomenal time tonight. So let's make that happen. So where are we? We're here with the essential mechanisms for aligning with your highest timeline and living your most optimal superconscious path. What on earth does that mean? Well, there are infinite timelines, okay? And as we are learning and growing and moving through this concept of, law of attraction, manifesting, co-creating our reality, there comes a point in our journey where we embrace the choiceless path. And I call it the choiceless path because it's the one that we actually fully surrender to our highest self, to our soul consciousness in such a way that we're like, hey, the part of me that chose to come to this world at this time, guide me. Whatever it was that I said I wanted to do here, show me what it is. Make it really clear. Take all the other options away. Now, for many of us, that would seem like not an option that we actually want. And this is partly why this presentation is so important, because you'll get to see where you are on this journey and actually what matters to you. Because some people who are, well, a lot of people who are attracted to the kind of work I do are here to do like big trailblazing, shift things in the collective, out in the public arena style thing. And then there are those who are going to be doing it much more privately behind closed doors. And it's more about our inner fulfillment. It's more about, being able to overcome a challenge that has been there our whole lives, whether it's a health condition, whether it's around relationships, whether it's around how we're showing up in this world, finances, you name it. Okay. And I want to make it very clear that one is not better than the other. Everyone's purpose is essential to this ascension. Okay, so your unique purpose, whether it's something that's going to be really public or it's going to be something that is actually really behind closed doors, is essential. Okay, it is essential. So I want everybody to walk away from here today knowing just how important it is for you to prioritize yourself and have a really open and honest dialogue with who you are, what you want, and then get the clarity on why you want it. Okay, so this is a masterclass really for those of us who are all awakening, whether you consider yourself a conscious, entrepreneur, millionaire, billionaire, whether you're a starseed, an empath, a lightworker, a wayshower, a visionary, however you identify. I think it's very, very important at this point to remember that, we are here to have the most impact we possibly can. And, that means to actually have as much fun as possible. So before we do that, let's take a little tune in. And this is really so that we can all get on the same path. So I'm just going to invite you just to rub your hands together and then have a little shake. And if you're sitting down, awesome. If you're having your dinner, that's great too. Just have a little wiggle, have a little relax, and then bring your hands to your heart center. Just take a moment to welcome yourself here, to give thanks for the fact that you are choosing to spend some time with me, cultivating an awareness of a higher frequency, so you can really get clear on where you are, where you want to be, and what there is between where you are and where you want to be, and what you're going to do about it. So I am calling in my highest self, the version of me that is already, well on the path of establishing Star Peace in the collective. The book is already published. We're getting 1 billion copies sold all around the world. And this is the version of me that can see peace on earth as a true reality for all in our lifetimes. So I'm calling on my highest self and source self to be a pure channel tonight, so you can each receive exactly what you need. And, come away with some really useful insights that are going to support you to make a courageous decision in the direction of your own well-being, your growth, your soul purpose. And to wherever you've sat on the fence before, wherever you felt something isn't possible, for you to actually see by the end of this time together that it really is possible. Not only is it possible, it's inevitable. And as you see how you can actually be part of this phenomenal shift in humanity and on this planet, so that the systems that exist are revolutionized in the most exquisite and delightful way, that we can truly have a party on this earth. We can celebrate the amazing shifts we have occurred. We have co-created even together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just calling this in. Now you can imagine bright, beautiful light just sending itself down from source, all that is. Bathing your body, moving down through your feet, into your earth chakra and into the core of Mother Earth. And just imagine your roots spreading across the planet, your roots anchoring into the core of Mother Earth. And let's allow the mind to become very receptive to the wisdom of the heart. Let's allow the mind to become the scribe of the heart's intentions, knowing full well that through the heart we hear our soul. And so with your nose, please draw a circle in the air in front of you, establishing a boundary. This boundary is your energy field boundary. This boundary is for you to feel super safe within. This is your boundary, go both directions, to step into, to expand, and to create your own really beautiful sphere of compassion that is your safe space. Calling in your guides and teachers, calling in all the beings that are supporting you to thrive right now. And actually, let's call forth the version of you that has already fulfilled their soul mission in the most delightful way, as I said, the most graceful, easy, and joyful way. We invite this part of you to be with you today and to, as much as possible, just to be received by the you that you are now. So you embody far more of the you that's already co-created what you desire by the end of our time together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Beautiful. Then gently bring yourself back. Thank you for that. Okay, so as we start our journey here, we look at what's going on in the global stage and we say, okay, there's a lot. Okay, here I am saying to you, oh, hi, the Star Peace Collective have informed me back in 2020 that, the light in our universe has won. Star Wars is over. It's now time for Star Peace. And, you're quite in your right to go, Rosie, the planet isn't doing that. What are you talking about? And it's like, well, yes, there is a battle still being played out here. And this is one of the key things for us to really grasp before we go any further, is that as we make changes in ourselves, as we grow from the version of ourselves that is a conditioned human, that's forgotten our soul consciousness, we step into the awareness of our soul self integrated with our human. It's really important to remember that the sort of default setting is always going to be to go back to that original conditioning of this lifetime, which is going to be the limited mindset that you inherited from your bloodline family and those who brought you up if it wasn't your bloodline family. Now, please remember, as a starseed, as a lightworker and an empath, you chose the conditions that you were born into. You chose the families. You chose the situations that you were going to navigate through as you remember your mastery through the challenges that you have lived out in early life. This is important because it plays massively into our soul mission. And, it's also very, very important to remember that all the things that currently challenge you are part of your soul mission. Okay, it's to overcome them, master them, and then be able to support others to do the same. So when it comes to us remembering we came here and we chose these conditions, some of us are in real hardship right now. Okay, whether you're dealing with a physical issue, a financial issue, an emotional issue, there's a lot going on. Okay, so please hear everything I say from the place of compassion. This is not a judgmental space. This is just about us being able to step into the most empowered perception we can, so we can affect change in a way that is beneficial for us and for the world. So from the perspective of a multidimensional co-creator, what I would say is this. In the world, there are a lot of really well-meaning people that are awakening. Okay, we're kind of growing in our consciousness. We're seeing that, things could be different on this planet. But for the most part, there are very few philanthropists out there, very few WayShowers thought leaders that have actually done the deep integration work that means they're coming from a resolved aspect of their consciousness. Many do-gooders in this world, and I'm talking particularly to those who have a big audience, whether they're wealthy or not, or those who actually have a lot of financial clout and can support shifts in the collective to happen. That if we haven't actually kind of resolved the wounding, that is what makes us care so much, and healed the unhealed emotions, process the unprocessed emotions, then whatever change we make in this world, it will not be as regenerative and sustainable as it could be. And in fact, I'll go into an example of this a little bit later so you can understand what I mean. But basically, we'll end up often hurting ourselves in the process, and it's costing us our health, our well-being, our happiness. And that is something that is not this paradigm. Okay, we're not here as the co-creators of this new earth paradigm to do it from a place of self-sacrifice and a place of martyrdom. And I say this because some very important people I know, luminaries who've been doing great work, have had really big challenges lately, health conditions primarily, and it's all hit them most where their nurture centers are: breasts, womb, the places, really, even gut, etc., where we're kind of taking on the poison of the world rather than actually processing it. So it's very important we recognize our own well-being is essential. There's no good going out there trying to save the world, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Okay, so one of the things that's very important for us to do is to recognize that all the changes that we seek to evolve in this world at this time, we want to get to a root level of. Okay, we want to get to the root cause, because if you're just putting fires out without seeing why the fire keeps being set in the first place, you're never going to win. All right, we're at a point in time in history, her story, our story, where we actually have every tool we could possibly want at our disposal to be able to, one, deal with our own unprocessed pain, and two, stop it actually being passed from one generation to the next. And one of my areas of expertise is epigenetic impact, in the sense of intergenerational trauma. So what happens from one gen to the next when we haven't actually dealt with something painful, we just pushed it aside. Maybe we've had a little bit of therapy, but we just don't know how to deal with it, so we suppress it. And, that then gets passed to the next generation. Now, the American Indians talk about 7 generations, thinking ahead 7 generations in terms of the impact of decisions that we make today. And I would like to say that we can free 7 generations back, if not 14, okay? And we can also consider the impact moving forward. So this is important for us because we're coming from the place of recognizing that the way current institutions and governance and all the different systems we know and how they exist are being run by people, and have even been set up by people who aren't very well. Okay, this is not a judgment like they're bad people. I'm literally saying there's intergenerational trauma that hasn't been processed, and this has gone back for so long. Okay, we're here now as light workers, as WayShowers, to restore Paradise Earth. Now, the original blueprint of this planet, as I understand it, and I'm claircognizant, clairvoyant, clairsentient primarily. So these are like my superpowers, if you like. Don't ask me to prove this to you. I just know in the depths of my being as a soul that's come to this earth to say that, this planet originally was actually a Paradise Earth planet. It was intended to be that. And we have got those codes in our cellular memory, in our DNA. We can reactivate them. And that's what we're here to do. But what's important for us to do is to recognize that our own wants, our own needs, the longings that we have are there for a reason. They're part of our soul purpose. But what our job is to actually look more deeply at them and actually look into, okay, why do I want what I want? And what's the higher octave of this? Do I want to be a millionaire basically so that I don't have to worry about money anymore? Do I want to be a millionaire so that I can actually have impact in this world that I couldn't have in any other way? Like, what is it I want to do with that million, 10 million, 20 million, whatever it is that I actually think I want and I need? And have I really looked at this beyond just an idea? What would I do? How would I set things up? What is it I have an intention to do? Because with everything, and this is part of the mechanisms, we want to have a vision. Within that vision, there are goals. And within those goals are the mechanisms to achieve those goals. And we're going to go through those mechanisms today. What I'm going to ask you to do is, like I said, just make a note. See which ones you actually have done something with and which ones you haven't. The important thing for us to remember is for us to have world peace, we are required to access personal peace. It is essential. You can't do one without the other. And this means we need to get selfish and focus on our personal fulfillment as world service. At the same time, we're asked to pick the higher octave of our desires, to get clear on what we want, and also to love up the unprocessed pain that is motivating us, okay? So I recently spoke to a friend of mine, for example, who I interviewed a while back, and discovered that, her deep, deep love, and I'm just going to be very general about this, of her cause had ended up, she ended up quite sick. And there was definitely some unresolved trauma there in terms of like pain that she felt she caused in her earlier childhood that she hadn't resolved. And this made her much more sensitive in some ways, which is great. But also because there was unresolved, basically self-love, okay? So it was a kind of sense of self-punishment going on. This contributes to us not being in optimal health, and we want to be in optimal health to the best we can be. So what does it actually mean to be on our highest timeline and the most optimal superconscious path? Please do feel free to put messages in the text box and I will check them out. For me, what this means is to be the most happy, healthy, wealthy, and in love timeline option for us to fulfill our self-chosen soul purpose. So your highest timeline is the version of you that is most awake, most conscious, most integrated, and having the best possible time. Okay, your personal wants and needs are taken care of, and you are enjoying fulfilling your soul mission. Enjoying, not enduring. Very important. Okay. Now, some of us are happy to have small shifts in our personal lives. There's not huge things that we want to change. Others are here for something local, national, international, global. It's whatever we personally conceive as extraordinary. What would be an extraordinary shift in your own life? What would you like to see for yourself? What would you like to see for the world? And, I've given some examples here. It's like, when you actually think about this, ultimately, the way we can measure our success ultimately relates to how fulfilled we really are. And this is a question to ask yourself right now. How fulfilled do you feel right now? Right? Do you feel like within you feel good? Is there something that feels like it's missing? And just pay attention to that. What is missing? What is it that you feel you want more of that you don't have? because fulfillment and success are incredibly linked. If you have external success without internal fulfillment, that is ultimate failure, because whatever it looks like on the surface, if you cannot enjoy it, if you cannot feel satisfied with what you are doing in this world, then it's a form of torture, okay, in terms of the fact that nothing you ever do will be enough because you're coming from an unresolved place. So for those of us who want to be multimillionaires and billionaires, what do you do with the money? What do you want this for? What is it going to do? Why? You know, you're not going to end world hunger just because you're going to have some billions, okay? We've got to look at why people are hungry. We've got to look at why there is greed in this world. What is this systemic thing that's happening epigenetically, which means it's being passed from one generation to the next? You want to have a baby? Well, then what? What's that about, right? What do you want to have a baby for? What happens to you? Who are you as a mother or a father? What happens beyond that? What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to share with this baby in this world that you're bringing this baby into? How do you want to bring them up? Like, there needs to be more thought beyond the actual, I just want this, is what I'm getting at. Okay. And it's the same with, you know, when we long for love, etc. Okay, well, what does that look like for you? What is the kind of love you want to explore? What is the kind of connection you want to have with another? It's not just, I want someone to love me, right? Because whatever you get, we all learn this. Nothing externally actually truly makes us happy. It's an inside job, happiness. And with the fact that we're in this new moon energy now in Scorpio, it's like we're actually having an opportunity in the collective consciousness to basically either keep recreating pain and trauma, and that's like the sting in the tail, right, of like retaliating again and again and again, right, the counterattack. Or we can decide to be the higher octave of the Scorpio energy, which is the eagle, and actually take the bird's eye view, take the widest perspective we can, and actually ask that question. Okay, I chose to be here at this time. What's the most phenomenal impact I can have? How can I have the best time doing this right now? What does that mean for me? Because it might mean you're not doing very much. It might mean you not actually, you know, being out in the world, putting loads of stuff out there. It might just be you tending to your garden and being very happy with that. Thank you very much. Because your vibrational state is the key. In the end, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you feel about what you do, because it's your vibrational frequency, okay? Your energy that is either resonating in love or it's resonating in fear and conflict. It's either contributing to you know, vision and expansion where we're actually happy and we're creating more happiness and joy in this world, or it's not. So how happy are you right now? Again, feel free to respond, like put this in your notebook, but also how about sharing it in the text box, and you can message me privately if you want. So yeah, giving the example, like when you have a challenge in your own life, doesn't mean that you're here, like every challenge you have is part of your soul purpose. So I just want to say that, and I'm giving you the caveat here of the fact that personally, you know, I came from a real lack background myself, and it was actually riches to rags in both sides of my family. So money became unsafe to have because it caused death and all sorts of other things that occurred in my family. But part of overcoming lack has been part of my soul purpose, because I've wanted to, I've had a longing to. Whereas if I give you the example of how I feel every time I open a spreadsheet or I look at a, you know, governmental form or instruction manual, it's like, oh my God. But it's not my sole purpose to basically become an expert of spreadsheets. Do you get what I mean? I don't have a passion for it. I don't have a longing to overcome it. So the challenges you have that you have a longing to overcome are part of your soul purpose. Take that on. Okay. And one of the key things for us to really get clear on here as we are choosing this highest timeline path is actually to evolve beyond self-sacrifice. Now, the whole age of Pisces, which is the one that we're coming out of presently, is a path of self-sacrifice. It's basically what Christ taught, or what we've been told Christ taught as part of Christianity. And it is about, you know, putting everyone else first. It is about ultimately being willing to sacrifice yourself for another, which we were even told to do in the greater good fear-demic times, right? So it's very important to remember with all of this, my Popsy's arriving as well, that you have this opportunity to basically evolve beyond needing to suffer yourself in order to help someone else. And that's really important to take on board, because most of us value somehow our service to be in some way that, you know, we do end up suffering for others, whether it's for our cause, whether it's for animals, whether it's for the environment, whether it's for, you know, women in need, children in need. Can we actually stay strong and well ourselves and offer support from a healthy and well integrated space, rather than actually doing so from a place where we're just feeling the pain of the world around us, and we're feeling so much pain of others, which is what empaths do, and we feel compelled to help more and more and more. But actually, the most helpful thing we could do is resolve our own inner pain first. Okay. Now, any questions you have, anything here that doesn't make sense, you just let me know and I'll come back to it. Okay. So we have a very important, I keep saying important because I've written it down a million times. So there's two things that are key to our highest self mission, okay, to living the highest mechanisms. One is to evolve beyond self-sacrifice and fighting for change, because that is part of that old energy, and we can actually be a vibrational resonance for the solution rather than the fight. Secondly, it is also to get to the foundational root of intergenerational trauma, so it stops being perpetuated and subconsciously passed down from one generation to the next. And I'm talking about racism, sexism, inequality, greed, pedophilia, addiction, socioeconomic prejudice, obesity, you name it. Okay, the world as we know it is trying to deal with it here, all right, and not actually take it further. And I'll give you an example of a cryptocurrency membership that I know about. Now, again, I'm not going to say any names, but, you know, this is something I've been a part of myself. And, you know, everyone talks about this wonderful person's story and how philanthropic they are and how they just want to free everyone from being in debt and being in lack. And everyone gets a chance to do this. And that's great. Okay. But when you're taking on the financial system, you're going to get a whole load of resistance. And if you haven't actually done your inner resolution around that, and you're aware of what you're dealing with, it's never really going to come to pass. So there are lots of brave, beautiful souls in this world who have managed to amass big sums of resource, which are, you know, money, and are doing their best to fight for change, to change the system. But what they're doing is basically fighting a system rather than evolving a system, and recognizing that as part of this global play, there are those who don't really want the system to change. And this is as much about our inner world as it is about our outer world, because any battle you see in the world outside is actually just a reflection of an inner battle. It's where we don't own our shadows. This is one way of seeing things. It's not the only way, but it's a way I'm offering you so that you can always feel like there's something you can do. And that is to resolve your own inner feelings about this. First of all, before you go out there and take any action, make sure you've done your inner cleanup job, right? Your inner work around this. And again, I'll talk about the mechanisms around that shortly. So all of us here on earth are required to upgrade our relationship to resource and our expectations of what we are worthy and deserving of. Our tolerance baseline must go up. There are way too many people suffering in this world today because we accept too little. Okay, there comes a point where we have to each say, I deserve so much more than this. I am so worthy of so much more than this. Everyone is. Am I going to step beyond the suffering, because suffering is what makes me feel like I'm part of this global sisterhood and brotherhood? And am I going to choose to step forward, resolve the conflict within me, be an example for others to follow, knowing that initially they might feel a little bit nose out of joint, that somehow I've managed to elevate myself and step beyond the struggle they're used to. And then they'll start to be curious about what it is I'm doing that they don't do. They'll start to notice the way I speak, the way I show up, the way I deal with challenges. And I will model the change for them. I'm not talking about me specifically. I'm talking about all of us who are here as phenomenal change makers. So I'm going to ask you now just to, you know, come into yourself for a moment before I go on, and ask you, as a change maker, why are you here as a change maker? Why does it matter to you so much that you support change in this world? And the other thing to ask is, what is behind why you do what you do? What is your why? Do you know? Whatever it is you're out there in this world doing that you feel so passionately about, what motivates you? What's your end game? What do you want to see happen? And again, as a change maker, why are you a change maker? I'm just going to check in with chat box. Please do use it so I can find out. So I've got Nikki saying here, joy, health, prosperity, security to create and whisper the winds of change to politicians to improve society, to achieve equality for women and other people who are devalued and vulnerable. Yes, as a Scorpio, yes, the bird's eye view, put on professional hat and set motions in action. So let's just before I go further with that, I'm just going to say, okay, so equality is inside of us. And also with the politicians, we have to understand that they're just old school dinosaurs. If we really want to see change, it's not just about changing the politicians, but changing the whole system of politics, right? And that's something that is going to come through. Basically, again, those of us who feel a pull towards politics, for example, doing deep resolution work. Imagine if politicians were taught to connect to their soul consciousness, if they went through a process of overcoming their pre-birth trauma, their time in the womb, their early life trauma, if they were, you know, able to resolve their inner family, how that would impact what they're doing in this world. And being that we have an ex-local politician here, you know, that we all know that there comes a point that you can go so far, and if you're not willing to play the game, whatever the game is currently, you don't go any further. Systemic corruption is everywhere. So how do we get rid of it? We clean it up inside of ourselves, and it has this butterfly effect on everyone else. So yes, and bring justice so I can paint, create abundance and share. Set motions and action to defeat inequality and bring justice. To see. So you see, there's so much fighting language in here, Nikki. I say that with utter love, right? You are a fighter. You're an amazing being. You've needed to use this. You've absolutely had to use that energy. And it's more now about that self-love, that self-support for you to be able to actually be taken care of as you are able to bring light to the challenges that are going on. And you can affect change in the system by pressurizing it to change, right? But coming from a place in you that it doesn't attack you. And that's the key. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to move on just to stick to time, but I look forward to everyone else's responses. So I'll ask you another question. What is it you specifically intend to achieve in this lifetime? Personally? Like, what do you want to achieve for yourself? And what do you want to achieve in the collective? What do you want to see happen in the collective? So you may just find you have time to ask these questions and write them down rather than write the answers. But yeah, really, like, this is important because it's going to help you understand your mechanisms. So what is it you specifically intend to achieve in this lifetime, personally and collectively, for you and for the collective? And secondly, do you feel, and there's no right or wrong here, this is just about your truth, are you here to be able to alleviate current perceived suffering? Or do you feel like you're here to trailblaze a new paradigm? Because there are those of us here who are the nurturers, if you like, and the builders of the new earth, who are here to do the repair work, right? Which is to alleviate suffering. And then there are those who are called the architects and the oracles, the seers, who are here to vision the new world. And many of us are both, right? But the question is, what is the best use of your energy, your wisdom, your power, all of the expertise that you have? Where are you going to position yourself so that actually you can use all the skills you have? I'll give you an example. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm also a yoga teacher trainer. I'm a coach, and I'm also a trainer of coaches. At this point in time, what do you think is the best use of my skills? I can keep doing coaching. I can keep teaching yoga classes. But being that I have all of this depth of knowledge and wisdom at this stage of my life, would it not be more beneficial to support those who are teaching others to deepen their knowledge and wisdom? For me, it feels better. And also, if I'm honest, that's where my energy is. That's where my excitement is. That's where I feel passion. Yeah, because it's still tantalizing me. Whereas if I'm doing things that are super easy, lemon squeezy, and I've done them a million times before, it's not that easy is bad, but every one of us likes to have some kind of challenge to work with. It's part of our nature, right, of being here on this planet. That's why we're here in physical. So I think it's very important to just allow yourself, to give yourself permission to own where you're fed up and you're done with things, and where you actually feel inspired to grow. Because I think I've said in other videos that this is like the 4th iteration of my soul mission, Star Peace, right? And it has really challenged me. It's scared the living daylights out of me to step into this level of bigness, but actually anything else wouldn't do anymore, right? This is where I'm at. This is where my excitement is. I want to surf that edge and overcome my fears so that I can really step forward into it. So you know, what we're saying here is we are shifting all of the systems. This is really important. And one of the things that's very important is for us to evolve beyond fighting for change. And I know this is really hard to fathom, because actually things aren't just going to change by us going, hey, can you change that? But there is the inner work that will allow us to look at that fighter in us and see how to shift that anger into passion for change and keep working with the triggers that come up for us. Or we just find another cause to fight for and another cause to fight for, because we're really attached and addicted to that fighter energy. And we need to be very aware of that. Okay, the world isn't at peace because we're actually addicted to conflict, to struggle, to stress, to adrenaline. Okay, and for us to shift that, we've got to get addicted to love and oxytocin and sacred union and resolution. Okay, so it's a shift for us. We just firstly have to recognize what's going on, so then we can make choices for the future. Okay, so I'm just going to move on. These systems, as I said, that are currently in operation have been created in a wounded space. So we're learning to evolve beyond that. And, you know, what is required for us is to evolve as humans into heart-centered, soul-inspired, trailblazing visionaries. And we're also required to visualize a new world into being and be a vibrational match for it. So it's one thing to visualize it, it's another thing to raise our frequency for it. But we cannot do this from an old perception, limiting belief, entrenched mindsets. This is why I was saying to you, every one of us needs to evolve our relationship with resource, because there are many, many folk that want to create a new world, a world that doesn't require us to work every day to earn money, to pay our rent, etc., or the mortgage. But actually, you know, we're coming from a place where we haven't overcome our lack consciousness. And I've worked with enough multimillionaires and, you know, met billionaires and also millionaires that are still stuck in poverty consciousness, even though they've got so much money, right? So unless that issue is resolved, it comes with you. And that's why it's so important for us to shift our relationship with resource, which is our connection to the divine versus our connection to the finite and taking from each other in a way where we're in codependent relationships. We actually want to tap into the infinite source of all that is. And that's not something you do once in a blue moon. It's several times a day, many times a day. And we'll go into that. So to be successful on any level, it means to achieve something that you have worked towards achieving. And that requires an overcoming of resistance. Now, you can either do that through sheer force of will, but that will deplete you. It's a short-term, unsustainable option. Or you can look at becoming the version of you that is in holistic resonance with what you desire and therefore can entrain with, embody, integrate, and amplify into the collective once fully claimed. So it's like going on a crash diet where you know you're going to put on weight. Again, right? It's a short-term result is that willpower way. Versus the long-term way, teaching your body how to operate, shifting your metabolism, shifting your relationship with food, with how you see yourself, etc., and being able to feel good about your body that way. So Star Peace and Paradise Earth, the original blueprint, as we said, is basically for us to come back to creating a harmonious and harmonious symphony on this planet with all of the different species that are coexisting, and allow our relationship with life and death to be in balance, because it's all part of it. This is a finite place. Yeah, we're not here to be here forever. It's here as a school. So the highest timeline for any of us is us valuing our own personal experience as much as our contribution to the world. So if you're busy saving everyone else and you feel miserable inside of you, you don't feel like you have what you need, you're struggling to make ends meet, it's really important to prioritize you, because you're no good to the world strung out, stressed, or even sick or dead, right? So we want to really look at that. And this is in contrast, as I said, to the conditioning we've had in the last 2,000 years, which is very much about self-sacrifice. So fourth density and fifth density are very different. And I'm throwing a lot of different concepts in here, I know, and I want to move on to the mechanisms in a moment so that you've really got them. But essentially, fourth density is the experience, if you like, of the environment energy of actually creating from a place where we feel others' pain so much that we sacrifice ourselves to save them. And fifth density consciousness is when we realize, hold on a minute, it's going to be so much better for everyone if I can support them and also stay alive myself. So what can I do here that's going to benefit me, them, and us collectively? That's the win-win-win and the highest good of all. And that's what the new world is all about. So we want to, I mean, I gave the example a little bit further up, so let me just bear with me on this, because I said here, if you want to be rich to eradicate poverty, it's not going to happen. If you want to be rich so you can help those in need, it's not going to happen, because it's like a constantly feeding fish rather than teaching fish. It's teaching people how to fish. If you want to be rich so you can build a new hospital wing, you are missing the point. The whole healthcare system is currently built on staying sick. So we want to create a new healthcare system, right? Now, we might need to build some hospital wings in the meantime, but our aim really is to create a whole new system based on health rather than sickness, right? So again, just be very aware of the depth of what is possible for us to do when we do activate all aspects of our being. Now, for us to hold a new frequency requires a multidimensional approach. And when the tools we have no longer work for us the way that they used to, this means that we have an upgrade coming, a refinement of what we understand and how we understand it, and new levels of consciousness to integrate. This is how we evolve. So I created a course a while back that used to be called Fearless, Empowered and Free to Be Me, right? And it has evolved into Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless. And here's why. Fearless is not about not feeling fear. Okay, we want fear. Fear is a good thing. It's not to be eradicated. It has a purpose. It keeps us out of true and impending danger. Okay, being loved up is basically when we make a transition as a humanity from being fueled by stress and adrenaline, the hormone adrenaline, which we get addicted to in the womb, to being fueled by the love hormone oxytocin. And therefore, we're parasympathetic nervous system dominant rather than sympathetic nervous system dominant. This means we're basically not stressed most of the time, and we get stressed occasionally, but that stress is helpful stress because it gets us where we need to go, right? So adrenaline's meant to be there in our lives, just like stress is and fear, in short bursts. It's not meant to dominate our lives. And I know for many of us, we find ourselves in a constant state of anxiety, worrying about the future, what could go wrong, what's going to happen next. And, we then get exhausted and feel depressed and lacking motivation. We don't know why. And this is just running on adrenals. We can't do it long term. Now, limitless, as humans, we have ancient wisdom in our bloodline memories. As souls, we are eternal aspects of the divine. So part of us here coming to this earth and actually living our highest timeline and actually living, this amazing version of us, if you like, that is able to fulfill everything that we came here to do in the most enjoyable way, is to clear up the toxicity in the bloodlines that we came into. And as we access the ancient wisdom through which we can experience our eternal nature in this physical world. This means to enjoy fully the temporal for what it is, temporary. So we kind of have to get our heads around the fact that we're not here forever, right? And for those who are attracted to the work that we do here with RozyGlow, this is really 4th to 5th dimension, 4th to 5th density shifts. This is what we do, is we make this shift. And I know there's loads of manifesting coaches out there. There's loads of mindfulness coaches out there. There's law of attraction coaches. There's empowerment coaches. There's soul coaches. There's, reprogramming your subconscious coaches, but it's about bringing all of this together. This is the work for us to do it. It's not going to be any one of these things individually. So we do need to move off the path of the martyr. Our self-sacrifice is not required or welcomed, all right? And we do want to embody our highest self. And again, I love the fact that it's only recently that people have been talking about highest self. For a long time, we've been talking about higher self. But as we evolve, as a consciousness, as humanity evolves, these concepts become commonplace. We start to expect them. That's the zeitgeist. It's what happens. It spreads like wildfire. So, these days, we know that we can't really embody higher than 5D or 5-dimensional consciousness in our physical bodies, because we then would be light beings, not physical beings. But you can access your 6th dimensional, 7th dimensional, 8th dimensional, 9th dimensional self, right? The versions of you that are way ahead of this human version of you, and get them to guide you, right? This is reverse engineering. It's a really important part of us co-creating new reality, is accessing parts of us that are already where we want to be and downloading that. And this is what we mean by quantum and also multidimensional and holographic, that everything's in the now, nothing's really in the time-space continuum that we call past, present, future. Where do we go from here? Okay, I'm just going to move down. I'm going to take us through these mechanisms, because I think it's really important for you at this point to go, all right, well, what do I do and what don't I do? What are my practices and where do we go? So first thing is appreciating what a mechanism is. And a mechanism is a natural or established process by which something takes place or is brought about. So we're talking here about established processes that will allow us to go from the conditioned self that I call the 3D matrix self to the soul self, which is the divine matrix self, the version of us that is co-creating in sacred union with our soul consciousness and the divine. Okay, this is the mechanism. What are the mechanisms we need? This is where we're going. So multidimensional will be mind, body, heart, and soul practices. Also dimensions in terms of frequencies and densities. And if you don't yet know the difference, a dimension is a way of perceiving the universe. The higher the dimension, the more aspects and characteristics and parameters of the universe you are able to perceive, apparently. And the more you understand about reality, which is nothing. It's all subjective. In contrast, density is the plane you exist in. It defines the type of body you inhabit, the environment you live in, the type of spiritual lessons you're trying to learn, and the energies you're exposed to during a particular incarnation. And this is from a really cool article on Medium. So let's just go into some of these things and let's see where you're at. So we know we've got mind, body, heart, and soul as our basic elements of mechanism and what we do with them. So first thing is the mind is psychological. And this is about working with the conscious mind, which, by the way, if you practice mindfulness and you're like, conscious will, I will change what I'm doing, I will change my habits, I will show up and be a better person, I won't lose my temper, you'll be able to control things for a maximum of 6 minutes an hour, because the subconscious is 90 to 95% more powerful than the conscious mind. So your conscious will is only really going to be in charge of the show for really about 3 minutes of every hour, maximum 6. Okay, the rest of the time you'll be thinking, something will trigger you, you'll react. The moment you're in thinking mode, your subconscious is operating. If you have not reprogrammed your subconscious, guess what's going to be playing? And even if you have reprogrammed your subconscious, it takes quite a while for it to stick and your new paradigm to be your normal. Okay, so I would ask you, do you meditate? Because meditation, we know, is a part of this whole being able to connect to the infinite mind. And if so, what kind of meditation are you doing? Do you practice visualizing, transcendental? Do you do breathing meditations? Do you do focusing on a mantra in terms of, or even just one thing that you're looking to just focus on, look at, etc.? Like, what are the forms of meditation that you practice? And consider with the meditations that you practice, is this something that you take time out to do, or is it something that's generally part of your day? Okay. The next thing that I would say is mindfulness. Do you practice mindfulness, and how do you perceive mindfulness? So, you know, when we consider mindfulness in terms of, okay, I'm now consciously aware that I'm breathing in, I'm consciously aware that I'm breathing out, I'm consciously aware that I'm feeling the sensation of my index finger and thumb together, right? That's bringing your attention to something specific and focusing on it. Now, in its best guise, this will be about transmuting, you know, being aware of how you're feeling and then how you want to feel. But it's also about bringing you back to the present moment, which is great. It's teaching you to step into neutral and to detach. But a shadow side of it can be just to disassociate, right? And that everything has a shadow and a light. So we just want to be aware of that, because there's a lot of, you hear about spiritual bypassing, right? Which is just shining the shit, making everything's beautiful, it's amazing, but it's not really. We don't feel like that. We're just pretending. So we need to get real raw with ourselves and how we really feel if we want to affect change in this world in a way that is truly impactful in the long term and regenerative. And that's what I'm interested in, is the regenerative effect. Now, in the mind, you also have practices like hypnosis and RTT. So if these are things that you do, that's rapid transformational therapy, then, you know, write them down. Some of you will have a therapist that you, either you're a therapist yourself or you actually go to a therapist, maybe go monthly, weekly, whatever. So if this is something you do, okay, cool. Write it down. This is something you do. These are mechanisms for working with your mind. But what happens with therapy and psychotherapy is that it will bring to your conscious awareness what has been hidden, and you'll be able to make connections and see those connections, but it's not going to change anything much because your subconscious has not been detoxed and rewired. It's just been brought to your conscious awareness. Now, what this actually does is it then leaves you with like all this stuff in your energy field now that you weren't aware of before because it was suppressed. Now you're aware of it, but you don't know what to do with it. So it's very important you have practices to transmute, okay, whatever it is that you don't want to be running your life to what you do. And, you know, a way that you can check in with this, because I'm aware that I've got therapists here who will be practicing modalities as well, is that in the end, just consider how you feel in your day-to-day life. How do you feel when you first wake up in the morning? And how do you feel when you go to bed at night? Because one of the key times to reprogram your subconscious, to be aware of choosing how you're going to feel, is that twilight zone, okay, in terms of the awake and the asleep state. So with this in mind, basically you get to choose, okay, I am statements in that time, reprogramming your cellular memory at that time, making a choice to shift into a new frequency. And it's part of the work of Fearless and what we do, but that's a very important part of the reprogramming process, which you do have some control over. Now, I'm going to move just into the body side of it now, but those are the main areas around the mind that are all mechanisms that are important, and I'll put them together for you in a moment that will make some sense. In terms of body-based practices, we know that breath, sound, and movement practices are really important for metabolizing, right? For shifting what is in your cloud, right? So if you're angry, one of the easiest things you can do is just jump up and down, make sounds, discharge that anger. Otherwise, someone's going to get it, right? But first you have to recognize you're angry and not kid yourself. You're angry right now, or you're upset right now. Okay, what do I need? And there's practices to come back to yourself to self-soothe the key. But you can't self-soothe till you've discharged. So body practices are key. And again, they can be used to help us connect more or disassociate. So creating safety in the body so the mind can relax is one of the key elements of body-based practices. But they need to be practices that are with that intent, right? To create safety in the body so the mind can relax. Are your physical practices right now, whatever they may be, creating safety in your body so your mind can relax? Do you have a physical practice? What is it? What could you do daily that would support you? And the breath, sound, movement practices, well, you know, breath work is amazing, very similar to therapy. It will bring stuff out into your cloud, if you like. It will bring it from a suppressed state into a place that is open. But what I'm seeing with a lot of practices is that unless the new frequency, the metabolized, the transmuted energy from, say, something that felt unpleasant, changing its energy into something new, you then need to anchor that into your energy field. It needs grounding in. It needs rooting down. It needs an alignment with it. Otherwise, we revert back. We can go and do lovely healing things, sound baths, breath work, therapy sessions, open ourselves wide open and go, oh, amazing insight. And then it doesn't get integrated. And we just shut the door again until the next thing. So if you want true and lasting change at every stage of your next growth, the next thing that occurs, you then want to integrate there, stabilize there before your next step up, right? And this is where bringing awareness to your physical practices is so important. If you run, what are you doing when you run? Like, tell me, like, I want to know. You can put in the chat box what your physical practices are. You know, yoga is a great example as well. And, you know, I teach multidimensional yoga to connect people into what's going on in their head, what's going on in their body, what's going on in their emotional state, what they actually want to bring in as a frequency. It's not the same as a lot of yoga. And yoga's great, but what is easy to happen with yoga is that it ends up keeping us stuck in this fourth dimension of the mind. So we do body, mind, but we don't actually really integrate our soul. We go do a nice bit of stretching, we chant a little bit, we feel good, and then we go back to swearing at the taxi driver because he almost ran us over and, you know, bombing afterwards, right? But this is the point of a yoga practice, is to bring more and more light into your body, more of your soul light into your body. And that can only really happen if you do anchor into your earth chakra, you anchor into your soul chakra, you activate your light body so that you can hold more of your soul light. And this is light Reiki attunement, okay? You know, you don't go from never having been attuned to Reiki to being a Reiki master. You go through levels. It's the same with yoga. You have to stabilize, learn postures, breath work, move into this sense of being competent before you try something that might be more challenging, right? So sound work is very, very powerful as well for metabolizing, shifting what's in the energy in the collective, transmuting it. So breath, sound, movement practices are key, but we want to really be aware of what practices we turn to and why we turn to them. Are they a form of tuning in and connecting inwards, or are they a form of discharging only, or are they a form of escapism? You think about being an adrenaline junkie, you get what I mean. Dance, physical fitness, going to the gym. What do? Do you disassociate? Do you get this time to come to yourself and actually connect with your soul? On the emotional side of everything, so when we actually talk about emotional freedom technique, for example, emotion code, theta healing, inner child work, all of this work is amazing and it's really important and powerful. Okay, but you know, on their own, you can end up again stuck in the wilderness with this, okay? Because what doesn't happen in general is what I'm going to talk about in a moment, which is actually doing the general sweep of all the societal, cultural, religious, socioeconomic, familial conditioning we've had. We have all these lovely techniques that will help us get to a specific thing and release it, whatever that may be. Yeah, there's timeline therapy as well, RTT, etc. But if we haven't done a really deep sweep of everything and just done a general house clean, it's the difference between cleaning the whole house and then going and doing things like the frames and the details, all the little bits, and actually the whole house being dirty, but cleaning a little bit of something specific really, really well. You want to do a general sweep first, right? It makes sense. It's going to be so much easier to deal with those other bits. If you're just doing tiny little bits that you deal with meticulously and clean and might have a bit of a knock-on effect on somewhere else, you might clean the front of the cupboard and the back of the cupboard, but still the rest of the house is a mess, right? So again, utilizing our tools in such a way where we recognize what's going to be most effective in the shortest amount of time and then going deeper in a specific modality. That's how I would work with these kind of techniques. And of course, the same with healing. You know, do you have a healer you go to like every week, every month? Do you have a healing modality you turn to, one that maybe you've trained in, that you practice on yourself, or you maybe get paid to do work with others on? Like, healing work is great. I love healing work, but if it's not actually balanced with physical work, then it's out of whack. It's the same with just doing physical practices without energetic ones. You want both. Okay, we want to bring in physical, emotional, psychological, mental, and spiritual, all of these elements together. And you have, you know, if you don't, you can imagine this, you know, the analogy, because this is what's going on in this world, is we're trying to change things on the surface of the planet and, you know, knock down buildings and build them again without looking at the foundations, the roots. We're doing everything on the surface. And we need to go deep, 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 deep into the roots. So as high as we go up, we want to go as deep down. And this is very important to bear in mind for your highest timeline, because ultimately, you know, the more you reach up, the more there's going to be something in the depths of your being that wants to be brought to light to support you. Okay. So, you know, the same with plant medicine journeys. These are all mechanisms, right? On their own, none of them are enough. Bring them all together, we start to have something really powerful. That's why I always work with cacao in my yoga classes, because that is a form of plant medicine. It's the homeopathic one, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of it's not going to whack you the way ayahuasca will, or, you know, Cambo or anything like that. But again, you can go and have a wide open experience where you've kind of gone and seen the divine and got a direct message, and then you leave your plant medicine trip, a few days later you've completely forgotten all about it, just gone back to the same old stuff, nothing's really changed. Because if you don't then work with the messages you received and implement them and deal with the resistance that comes up, which is subconscious, it's just going to go round and round in circles. Now, a big element that is not addressed enough, which is my special sauce, is all around rebirthing, womb, all the stuff, the pre-birth stuff, okay, the time from preconception even through to the first 7 years of life. And we know in this country, in the UK, there's something called the 1001 days. It's a cross-party manifesto. So all of the political parties are well aware of how important the day from conception through to the first 2 years of life is. But most of the way that we're taken care of, or the maternity services sort of look at well-being is from birth or a little bit in pregnancy. If you've ever been pregnant, you know that when you go into the health system here, you're looked at all the time in terms of what could be wrong with you, not what's right with you. So it can be a very anxious time, which affects the baby. So have you done deep exploration work around, you know, it's one thing to know the impact of those first 7 years, but the immediate postpartum period, what happened to you? Were you able to be breastfed? Were you separated from your mum? Did something happen that was challenging that meant that you had some prolonged distance? Did you do skin to skin? Did your parents sleep with you? Were you left to cry? What was the birth like? Did you have some kind of instrumental delivery? Did your mum have analgesia of any type? Was it prolonged? Was she on a bed? You know, like, was she scared? All of this is so important. And I'm not even going into key things that happen during the actual pregnancy. All right. So what I think is very important is to understand that the emotional baseline of you is based on the emotional baseline of your mum. And she was based on her mum and so on. It's no one's fault. But how safe, secure, happy, fulfilled your mum felt in general is going to impact the way you developed in the womb and whether you were more sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system dominant. And most of us are post-World War, unprocessed trauma, third, fourth generation babies. So the chances of us being parasympathetic nervous system dominant is incredibly rare. Okay. All right. Now, the 9 brain alignments. So I've heard various spiritual teachers talk about, well, basically 3 brains. So you've got this one, you've got your heart, you've got your gut. And if you do join us for the Liberation from Limitation course at any point, you'll see that we really go into the different voices in us. And I actually did a little calculation of the different brains that I could come up with, and I came up with 9. So neocortex, limbic brain, the emotional brain, and then the reptilian brain. Okay. Then you've got the heart. So you've got the superconscious, the conscious, and the subconscious. There's 6, right? Then you've got the heart, you've got the gut, you've got the womb, and actually there's another one as well, which is the biosphere around you. So it's that sense beyond your skin. So there's a lot of elements of us that need to be congruent in alignment. So when you are finding yourself super frustrated because you think you're aligned with what you say you want and you're showing up, you're doing whatever practices you do, but things are not shifting, there's a part of you in resistance to it. And, you know, there are lots of different elements of us that can be in resistance. So being compassionate with yourself, being patient with your process is key, right? It's absolutely key. Because what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to recognize that sometimes we say we want things that we don't really want. And that's why that bird's eye view is so important. And it's like, actually, is that a should want? Is it a coming from my ego programming want? Is it actually a true soul want? And exploring that is so important. Like, it's one of the key steps in all the work that I teach. So, you know, some of the things I've put here is I've just broken down, and I'm coming to the culmination of this now. In our Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless program, we have 6 steps, 6 co-creation steps. And in the Liberation from Limitation program, we have 6 steps from limitation to liberation. Now, as I'm literally just finishing the Star Peace Star Maps book, there are 9 star maps. So these are 2 of the star maps. And when I say star maps, I mean they've come to me as concepts in the shape of a star, and they help us to get from the old world to the new world through self-inquiry and referral. So we have all sorts of tools that we use through these 6 steps that work with the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul, right? All elements are required. And typically when people come to me, they're usually already a healer, a therapist, a coach, a mentor, a CEO, a manager, you know, an entrepreneur. They've developed themselves to a certain degree before they come to me and before they come to my team. And what we're really doing is going, right, well, you've done great here. Now let's get to the foundations. Let's rewire these foundations. Let's pull out the plugs, all the dodgy programming. Let's put everything in where it needs to be and give you a system upgrade, a platform upgrade. And we operate within these 6 steps so that we can navigate from where we are and where we're used to being to where we want to be, but we don't know how to get there. And when you're dealing with uncharted territory, you need to know how to read where you are, right? My dad's here. He's a sailor. He knows how to use all of his instruments, and he also knows how to look at the stars and check the, the direction of the wind and be able to navigate without necessarily relying on those instruments. But you have to be aware of where you are, where you want to get to, and what might be in the way. So these steps are basically allowing us every time we feel lost to actually go, oh, okay, let me find myself in this. The first one is always about putting your soul in control. That's step one. And that's like, it's not just a once a month or once a week or once a day practice. It's like all the time. Like I said, morning and nighttime, waking up, going to sleep, right? It's also, checking in anytime you feel out of sorts, something's triggered you. So some of our practices are the Gaia Source hookup. I've suggested to you, do you pray? Because praying connects you to source, connects you to your soul self. But how do you pray? Do you beg or do you give thanks? What does prayer mean to you? When we get to intention, which is the second step, do you check in with your short-term and long-term goals daily? Do you actually look at your vision and your intentions daily? I've got vision boards in my office everywhere, right? But I take time every morning just to check in with my copy. Okay, what is it I want to create? Is that really what I want? Is there a better way? I'll hand this over. Don't know how to deal with this. Don't know how to deal with that. But it's that constant dialogue with your vision, constant dialogue with your goals. Because if it's just there and you deal with it once in a blue moon, maybe you set intentions once or twice a year, it's not going to be so easy to actually manifest. You're not going to see what's coming up. Conscious mind alignment is step 3. And conscious mind alignment is really everything that's in your conscious control. So these are mechanisms. Let's come back to mechanisms. Firstly, you plug your soul in. Secondly, you get clear on what you want and why you want it. That's intention. And whether you really do want it. This is self-inquiry. Third one is conscious mind alignment. How can you actually help yourself achieve it? If you've put your soul in control, you've got clear on your intention, you're in alignment with the divine. So what can you do? Is it feng shui? Is it being mindful of the words that you're speaking, how you're speaking them, what you're energizing? When you speak about things that you desire, are they in the future or the present? When you speak about things that you can't stand, are they in the present, the future, or the past? Because anything you don't want, you want to talk about in past tense. Anything you do want, you want to talk about in present tense. That's how you start to create the energy, the energetic shift, right? So current practices for getting your head in alignment with your higher self. What do you actually do? How aware are you of your thought processes and your baseline emotional state generally? Do you know? Like check in first thing in the morning, last thing at night, emptying your head and then setting your vibration first thing in the morning. Absolutely vital. Practicing positive self-talk, vital. So, the prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. And this is the energy of the conscious mind alignment. Now, conscious mind alignment is what most people focus on. Okay, most people, yeah, you might be doing some theta healing. Yes, there might be some EFT, NLP, all that kind of thing. But actually, for something to really stick, and if you just go with John Assaraf and what he said about this, in terms of the latest research on neuroscience, it takes between 66 days and 356 days to be able to actually have a new pattern embedded in your consciousness. So that's conscious and subconscious mind alignment. So expect it to be at least 2 to 3 months to a year before you've mastered something as your new norm, right? By practice. Most of us give up way before that. So subconscious is where it's all at. I said to you before that 90% of the power, if you like, in our consciousness is in the subconscious. And I also suggested to you that one of the things that's very, very important with the subconscious alignment is to do a general cleaning out before you try and deal with specifics, okay? So, when it comes to limiting beliefs, you can challenge them with your conscious mind. When it comes to emotional triggers, you can challenge them with your conscious mind. But in order for them to actually shift and not be triggers anymore, and not be limiting beliefs anymore, you've got to work with your subconscious as well. So the 6 areas that we work with when we're actually doing this general house clean, if you like, deep clean, is to work with the wound of the masculine and patriarchy, the wound of the feminine and matriarchy. So you can imagine initially it's all the issues you have with the men in your life, whether it's dad, God, your partner, your brother, your son, whatever. Then we're dealing with the feminine. And we're dealing with mum, the divine mother, sister, daughter, stuff that's coming up, our own self-identity. The third detox is around fear and the things that we're scared of that keep us in a constant state of contraction, stop us moving forward. And the fourth one we deal with is pain, and that is emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical pain. And very often people won't come to me until they're in a lot of physical pain. In the end, it wears down their conscious resistance, and they're like, I'll try anything, just clear this out now, I can't deal with it anymore. And the effects we have are phenomenal, because it's cloud storage clearing, right? Your physical body is in pain because your cloud storage is full of toxic crap that needs to be cleared. And it's all thought forms that you've inherited, beliefs you've inherited through your bloodlines that are not yours, but they're yours to clean up. Okay? No one else can do it for you. Then we get to guilt, blame, shame, judgment. Sure. Right? And, this is the patriarchal era we're all evolving beyond. But it's the judgment towards self that's so often the worst. And this leads us to lack. And remember what I said at the start of this session, that this was very much about our ability to shift our relationship to resource and really look at what is required for us to actually feel like there is always plenty. That even if the bank says I don't have any money, in me, I know I have plenty. I know I have access to everything I could possibly want or need, that none of my needs will be denied. All I have to do is ask. I have to ask for help, support. I have to ask those that may be able to help me. But it's about stepping forward and asking the divine, okay, I'm ready. I want to know what it feels like now to trust there is always plenty. And if your background conditioning says there isn't plenty, and if you have plenty, it's going to be taken away from you, you're actually subconsciously going to feel better off not having anything than having, because then you don't have the threat of losing it. Right? So there's been quite a lot in my bloodline family around that I've had to work with. Now we've got to step 4. So step 4, that one with the subconscious clearing, is huge. Okay, that's the one that we keep going back to again and again and again. And step 5 is called blind spot discovery and fine tuning. And that is when you look at your current beliefs after you've done your subconscious clearing and you go, okay, where am I not supporting my subconscious upgrade here? Where are my current perceptions taking me into an old paradigm, not a new one? And this one you go back to again and again. I described it like snakes and ladders the other day when I did the last masterclass. So you can go all the way up, you're nearly at the top, and boom, you go down a snake. And you have to go back again because something tripped you up. And this is where the patience, persistence, and commitment is so key. And what does this lead to? It leads to self-mastery, because after you've challenged your conscious mind, your intent, you put your soul in control, you've challenged your intention, you've challenged your conscious mind, you've challenged your subconscious mind, you've done all the deprogramming, reprogramming, and you're setting the new frequency. You challenge your blind spot discovery and fine-tuning by paying attention to what's going on in your environment, how what you're putting out is being received, how the intentions that you currently have, what's showing up, and refining how you are showing up so you can say no to what you don't want, so you can say yes to what you do want. This then leads to self-mastery. And that self-mastery is you embodying the new frequency. So if I give you my example, I was the typical example of the woman that always attracted Mr. Unavailable, not that interested, not that committed, the players, right? The ones that didn't really want to show up fully for me. Now, I didn't feel worthy and deserving of having someone really show up fully for me. So that was the instigation of my work, which led to the coaching work that I do, was that I really wanted a sacred union. I wanted to meet my husband. I wanted to have love that I thought was love I'd want for the rest of my life. And that's what took me on the journey of the deprogramming and the reprogramming around my early life conditioning. Now, initially, when I did this work, although I met my husband literally just after I started doing the male detox, we weren't ready to be together. And there were a whole hoop of people that came in between us getting together now and when we first met. And, I had to keep saying no to what I don't want and refine what I'm putting out in the world to actually then be able to receive what I do want and know I'm so worthy and deserving of being given to as I'm being given to. Because when someone is really generous towards you in their whole beingness, if you don't feel worthy and deserving of it, you will sabotage that. Same with money. Same with getting a clean bill of health. If you don't feel worthy and deserving of it and you can't accept it and work with it, guess what? Same with every amazing opportunity that shows up. So it's so important, absolutely imperative, that we raise ourselves up energetically. This is part of the manifesting work, is that you are a vibrational match for what you want. And most of us are not. We go, I want this, but it's over there and I can't be it. Well, everything you have now that you didn't have before, you grew into. So there are all these different ways that we borrow from those around us to build a picture that we can then step into vibrational alignment with. And that's exactly what Fearless and Liberation are about, right? So, I just wanted to go through that very quickly with you, because one of the things that does happen for those of us who are on our highest timeline is we get our superpowers activated. I talked about whether you're claircognizant, clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient. There are other clairs as well, but those are the basic ones, okay? So you see, you hear, you have a sense, you've got a feeling for, a deep knowing about. And working with these superpowers so that our sensitivities are gifts and not hindrances are key. Yeah, it's really important. Otherwise, we see people really suffer because of how sensitive they are to others' pain, to the world around them, to the suffering that's going on. So divine architecture, strengthening our own energy fields to be able to hold more of our soul light, and to basically, in a way, be like the doorman between being open to receiving that which is in resonance and repelling that which isn't, is key. So I am basically going to hand the floor over to any questions that you might have. But what I would like to say to you is this: part of the reason I'm making this today is because I'm taking a little step back from being so visual online. I've nearly finished the book, and having gone through the shifts that I've gone through recently, I'm aware that my role is changing, and I'm stepping into a role of public speaking, a role of inspiring change with visionaries and thought leaders, etc., and just looking at how we can take their dreams and make them even more impactful. So I'm excited for that change. And also for the fact that it's time now to say to all of you, I mean, there's so many of you that have been in my community that have never fully committed to maybe doing the coaching work, the deep dive. Maybe it's been financial. Maybe it's just not felt like it's the right time. But, we have a course called Liberation from Limitation, which is specifically for your conscious mind if this is what gets in the way. It's about rewriting your life story. It's about looking at where the problem really is, not where you think it is, and starting to adjust the storylines that you live by and your perception of yourself and the world, so you get some quick wins, right? Now that is the conscious mind one, but the subconscious clearing and the whole multidimensional consciousness one is Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless. And when I work with people one-to-one, I call it the SuperConscious Co-Creating Method. It's the same stuff that we're going through. It's just how it's delivered. So in all the work that I offer, they're all hybrid courses. There's digital content, group coaching, one-to-one support, and then the key thing is the support that we offer in between. And this is, where the price tag gets associated, because the level of support that we give, that I personally give, and so do my coaches, is exceptional. I've been on enough courses myself to tell you, like, it's a completely different story, right? In the way that we will show up and hold your hand through the toughest moments, all right? There are boundaries on that, of course, because we're not here as rescuers. We're here to create a safe container for you to feel safe to grow in. But ultimately, this is your opportunity now. If you're ready and you're in a position to do something that's 4 or 5 figures, then it's time now to look at Fearless, to look at liberation from limitation, and get in touch with me. Book a desire mapping call. Let's talk about this. Let's see what you're ready for. And for everyone who's like, Rosie, I love the idea, but it's just way out of where I am now. This is why I thought it would be a really good idea to set up a membership. I have a membership for graduates, which is called Rise. And I know quite a lot of you here have been through the Fearless program. So looking at your mechanisms, the ones you're really employing and the ones that need more work or refinement is part of your blind spot discovery and fine tuning. But, for everyone else, what this really comes down to is, where can we get you to? What do we need to work with for you? So you can, evolve your relationship with resource, with money, with time, with love, with whatever you feel is available to you. So you can see where you're out of alignment with what you want, and that's why you're not progressing where you want to. There's going to be a membership at £48, which is a yoga membership with some other stuff that will be available to you on a sort of digital replay level. And then there's going to be a £99 option where you will have access to MasterClass, the yoga, divine prosperity modules. There's all sorts coming up. And then there's a 555 option for those of you who actually want to have access to the digital content of Fearless and LFL and have some coaching support with lovely Kate to go through that. Now, I'm not going to go into all those details now. What I'd love you to do is, if you're like, oh, this is all exciting, whoa, lots there for me to kind of get my head round, and you haven't had a desire mapping call with me yet, please book one. Okay, if you have had one with me and your situation has now changed and you're ready to take the next step, or you're interested in this membership, again, book your call. Let's have a chat. Because I'm going to, like I said, go a little bit behind. I'm going through my own chrysalis transformation at the moment. And it's like, it has taken me 3 years. I'm not going to lie. When I got the vision, and then it scared the living daylights out of me. I was like, who do I think I am to have that vision? And now it's fun. Now I'm like, I want to do it. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm ready for it. So it's taken a while. And for any of you who are on a evolving into your highest timeline style journey, like, give yourself time. Don't expect it to happen in 2 months. You will have amazing changes in 2 months. You'll have amazing changes in 6 months, in a year. But keep looking back each year. There's a 4-year mark that's phenomenal. I see it so often, and it really is exciting. Okay. So yeah, that's all there. And I mean, if you're interested in the figures regarding Fearless, you know, the program, it's a 12-month program. I want to get you all in on the 12-month program, ideally. So that has been priced at 14.44K, but we're actually doing a scholarship. That means those of you who decide to join up before January, so this will be December cutoff, we'll get it for 11,100. And this is a year-long journey, full on everything, all singing, all dancing, all in transformation. And you'll get a practitioner training certificate at the end of foundation level. For those of you who are like, don't know if that's so relevant, you can do the 6-month version, and then we can see where we go from there. And that's from 8888 down to 6666. And that is a scholarship for fast action. For those of you who book your desire mapping calls and go, yeah, I'm up for this, I want to do this. And, you know, you can start in December, you can start in January. It's up to you. So I just want you to please feel inspired enough to book a call, to have a conversation, to see if you're like, I want to do it, but I can't see how it's possible, that we can actually take you to that place and we can help make it possible. Because I know I had to borrow when the opportunities came my way to do the things I really wanted to do and I could see the benefit. I didn't have that money. I borrowed off an ex-boyfriend. I put money on credit cards. And, you know, I was in a position to do that. But what I really had to do was bet on myself, trust myself, know I really needed this at this time. And I was willing to back myself. And that's why I asked for help. When I asked for help, I got it. Okay. Ask and we shall all receive. All right. Well, I'm not going to take you through the star maps. I'll do a separate one on those when we actually do have a whole experience around that. What have we got here? So Aisha's ready to develop her superpowers, not quite sure how. But that's what this is about, Aisha. This is, you know, one of those things. Oh, I've just lost you. Just coming back in. Right. Let me just, I'll let Aisha come in and then I'll answer. Nikki's no martyr, too playful. Yeah, you are. You're very, very playful. So, Aisha, back. I was just answering your question, beautiful, and saying, with regard to the superpowers, it comes back to what I said before, which is you need to feel safe in your body. So it's the journey from the mind to creating the safety in the body that then allows us to really bring more of our soul light in to our hearts, our heart centers. And as a result of that, what ends up happening is we are in a position where we can actually then access those superpowers. But it's like, it's another level of power. And I know you teach Reiki, for example, right? So it's like attunement. The key thing for you as I tune in is the physical clearing. There's density that needs to clear. So you're tuned in, you're plugged in, but there's a density that needs to clear, a lightening of your load. And it's that impact of compressed and suppressed stuff that as you bring light to it, it will dissolve away and it will make space for you to bring more of your soul light in. And as a result of that, your superpowers will come online. So at this point, would you say you get visions? You sometimes hear voices in your head. Maybe you get prophetic dreams. You get a sense of clear knowing, or a sense of you feel stuff. You just know something, but also you sense stuff. So clairsentient is when you have this feeling sense of what's right and what's wrong, of what's coming. Let's just see what else is here. Has anyone else got, you get feelings, so clairsentient. So I bet you've got more than one superpower. But as I said, I mean, so anyone who asks me a question, just know that my superpowers kick in. So my psychic powers kick in. That does not mean I'm reading your whole being. I'm just being shown something, right? And what I was being shown with Aisha was just there's like a density that will be penetrated with the light, and it's just taking it to another level of it's the spinning the way I'm seeing it with you is it's breath, sound, movement is very, very important for you to help metabolize all your shifts. Do you want to say anything to that, Aisha?
Oh, hi. Breath, sound, movement. Okay, so more breath work, more, more. Yeah, because I don't actually do enough breath, sound, movement, to be fair.
No, I mean, I did you, were you here when I was talking about the memberships that are coming up and the
Yeah.
starting somewhere, even with the multidimensional yoga would be amazing. But you know, if I could get you onto Fearless, you're ripe for that. You are so ripe for that. I know you well enough to know that's going to be like where you'll have your biggest breakthroughs. But wherever you can start, you know, not fear it. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you know, I'll say this to everyone right now. Like, I know everyone's in different socioeconomic status. Yeah, everyone's in different situations financially. Not some people have got money to burn and they're bored stiff. They don't know what to do with themselves, right? They've got the money, nothing is buying them happiness, and you know that's a different level we work with. But I know for a lot of you, you know, I'd love to, but I just haven't got the money. And I think it's so important to have the conversation because, as I said before, I didn't have the money, but because I realized I really needed what was being proposed to me, and I needed to have the conversation to know that was then how I realized it was a priority, and I needed to really make this my priority for everyone involved, all the people I love, and how to create a bridge. And you know what's going to happen is I'm just going to step back from being the main coach, and Kate and other coaches are going to be stepping forward. That's you know the biggest development that's going to happen. But for any of you who are like, oh, I really want to work with Rozy, now's the time to let me know, because you know I will meet you. I've been in some very interesting spaces with people who've said they want to do it, and it always shows up, it always happens, but you just have to get uncomfortable and ask for the help, and you'll get it. Okay, anyone else got any questions for me before we wrap up? And Nikki's saying empowerment, change, cultural practices, social work used, patchwork. Good. Okay. So, Yana, you got anything for me? Claire, Daddy-O, Lula, any take-homes, anything you want to talk, sort of anything here that's kind of made an impression on you that you want to, if you like, put in a picture frame so we can actually, make sure that you do something with this. Just seeing whether my phone is actually working and something's going on, it says. This is that opportunity now. Oh, Nikki's in two places at once. Wow, amazing, Nikki. And Natalie. Ah, Natalie, good. I don't know if you're still here, sweetheart, but if you are, please do book in a call. I've seen you a few times popping up in places, and it'd be great to have a chat. So Claire's saying, thank you so much. Love to do something with you. Hey, the planets align. Well, you're already doing stuff, and you are kicking ass, girlfriend, because you're doing it. So well done. Mwah. So much love to all of you. Okay, thank you for being here. Please do catch the replay. Okay, it's really going to give you some information that you know you'll hear again, and allow yourself to step forward and get uncomfortable with asking for what you want. That's something I really, really would love you to take on board for tonight. And, you know, just to actually really bring this into this idea of aligning with your highest timeline. I hope you've really taken from this that means you enjoying yourself as much as you can, realizing that your own needs are important, your own wants, your desires, evolving those desires, and recognizing that if you really want to affect change in this world, it's about how can we truly create new systems so we don't keep perpetuating the suffering that we see from one generation to the next. And that's why we do need to look backwards to go forward. So I hope you really take that on board. For anyone who catches the replay, so much love. I'll put the design mapping link in the comment section, and I'll put it in the text box for you. And I look forward to hearing from you. Just drop in, book a call, and let's have a chat. Lots of love for now. Thank you so much for being with me. Take care.